A stack of paper changed my life. Let me explain. But before that, I want to show you a few quotes that I want you all to read. So, all of these quotes basically talk about the same thing, that reading is important. No, scrap all that. Reading is life-changing, and therefore, everyone should read. We've all heard it, maybe from our teachers or our librarians or even from random strangers on the internet. I mean this in the most literal sense here. Because the other day I Googled why you should read, and guess what? 774 million search results came out, ranging from videos to self-help articles, convincing you all that reading will basically cure all of life's problems. Well, reading is thought to be so important that I've searched and I found that there's actually a book that somebody actually wrote titled How to Read a Book. So, that's a lot of proof to convince you guys to read, right? But even with all that, I still struggled to convince myself. Why? It just felt too good to be true. How can a stack of paper possibly change my life? It seemed really impossible, right? It just didn't make much sense to me. But even if that were all true, I still didn't get how it would benefit me personally. Because back then, my life was just school and that is it, just school. I spent hours or even days just studying, focusing on my studies and thinking that everything else was simply unimportant to me. Reading didn't give me any grades, so why should I read? And because of that, you guessed it, I didn't read much. But then the pandemic happened, and I suddenly had a lot of free time. So I decided to make a personal experiment. 50 books a year. Why? Well, first of all, I didn't really have anything to do, so I just said, why not? But in all seriousness, I also wanted to desperately prove whether reading was really life-changing or was it just another myth. So fast forward to the end of that year, and I didn't really succeed. But regardless, I felt that at least by pushing myself to read more, it really helped me grow as a person. I felt that I've learned so much more than I've basically learned anywhere else, and I can now say for certain that reading is crucial. But other than that, it also helped me come to a realization that I'm going to share with you all today. So, let's go back to the YouTube videos that I've mentioned earlier. As you can all see, all of these videos and many more, they only popped up in recent years, maybe in the last 5 or 10 years or so, meaning that it makes absolutely perfect sense to assume, right, that people are reading much more nowadays than they used to before because more people are promoting it, such as these YouTubers. But in reality, that is actually not the case because as data shows, we've actually seen a decline in reading trends. Just take a look at this chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which shows that in the past 15 years, the average American has spent 7 less minutes reading for pleasure, while in that same time, pollings have shown that the number of Americans who have not touched a single book in that year nearly doubled. Now, you may be thinking, what about Indonesia? Well, things aren't really good here in Indonesia either. Because according to UNESCO, only about 1 in 1,000 Indonesians read regularly. That's less than 1%. Right? So you may be asking, why is all of this happening? Well, to put it simply, there are actually a lot of factors at play. But here I'm just going to explain one. And to do just that, I want you all to meet my friend, Bob. So, Bob here is one of the first human beings to live on planet Earth, which is about 2 million years ago. So Bob here lives with his family in the middle of the savannah, surrounded by a lot of threats around them, ranging from poisonous plants to wild animals waiting to kill them at any minute. Bob and his family only have one goal in mind, and that is to stay alive. So, what do? They find ways to stay alive. They need food. They find ways to hunt animals or to pick plants for them to eat. They feel hot or cold. They soon discovered that the trees have wood that they can build homes with, or that the animals have fur that they can use to make clothes. They feel threatened, for example. They quickly found ways to sharpen rocks to make weapons, or to create fires to scare away those wild animals. Now, this constant need of learning in order to survive affected how humans like Bob back then evolved. Through this constant learning process, human beings gained the natural ability to be curious. So there were obviously no books or even any schools back then. So Bob and other humans like him used trial and error, continuous experimentation to grasp the world around them. Like, for example, maybe one of them, on a random day, they randomly thought, hey, I have this handful of grains here. What if I just toss them on the ground, right? And let's just see what happens. And so they did just that, and crops started to grow. They now know how to produce their own food in large quantities, enough to feed larger communities. And so after that, the population there started to boom. And with that, the job of running that community became more complex because obviously there were more people. And so their headgear started turning again, thinking of more solutions on what to do. And then they came to one solution. Hey, we have this huge job in front of us, which is running the community. We think, it should be very overwhelming for us if we do it all at once. So I think we need to do something differently. What if we split the task into smaller tasks so that each person can only focus on one specific task? And so they did just that, and it worked. Settlements containing only hundreds of people before slowly turned into villages and towns and cities with over millions of residents. The job of running that community, that city, that town became even more complex. And because of that, it needed more splitting up. And that, in essence, is how you got specialized jobs, such as doctors, teachers, politicians, even athletes and artists. Because they focus on one subject, they focus on one field, and they master that to contribute to their society. So, in essence, specialization actually worked. Humanity thrived because of it. And as with almost all positive things in life, certain people find ways to take advantage of it, to put money into their own pockets. They sell this narrative, they overemphasize this narrative, that the world has been too competitive a place, and to stand out or to be successful is to devote years and years of your life on a certain field and nothing else. Or as they like to say, the 10,000-hour rule. The idea that you have to devote 10,000 hours of your life on a specific field in order to master that, and that is the only way for you to be successful. These kinds of people use that rule to sell, for example, baby sports classes, toddler music classes, or even math tuition classes, by selling this idea to parents that if your child doesn't settle on a certain subject by the time they maybe learn how to walk or to talk, then they're automatically destined for failure. And people hold on to this idea without even thinking twice whether or not this is going to really be beneficial for them. They hold on to this, right? Even if there is actual proof that claims the opposite. And no, I'm not saying that the people who sell these kinds of classes are ultimately bad people. No, because to a certain extent, the 10,000-hour rule actually makes sense. It's intuitive, it feels right. The more you focus on a subject, the more you're going to be good at it, right? That makes sense. And because of that, slowly our society, our schools, and our universities began to adopt hyper-specialization, forcing us, its students, and the society within it to focus on a specific field before we are even ready. And that mindset will ultimately lead us nowhere beneficial. Because, unfortunately, the world is an unkind world. It's full of unpredictable speed bumps and potholes and twisted turns that just utilizing one set of tools isn't going to cut it. The world is a complex world and full of complex problems that in turn also need complex solutions to solve them. And most of them don't just rely on just one field. They rely on multiple fields. And people, nowadays, most of them don't really realize that. Exactly because they've been used to their whole lives to just focus on one specific field without focusing on any other fields. As Arturo Casadevall, one of the microbiologists and one of the most avid supporters of despecialization, elegantly put it, hyperspecialization is a state where people are digging deeper into their own trenches and rarely standing up to look at the next trench over, even though the solutions to their very problems are residing just there. With hyperspecialization, people may be able to spit out facts about their chosen subject, but it's at the cost of their creativity, of their critical thinking, and eventually their innovativeness and ability to solve real-world problems. And at some point in time, you just got to ask, is that even worth it? To prove more on that, researchers have also shown that successful scientists who have won the Nobel Prize are 22 times more likely to engage in an artistic hobby, be it singing or dancing or acting or even juggling. To our average minds, it may seem counterintuitive. It just seems like a waste of time. Why waste time painting or singing when they could have been doing lab experiments instead and contributing more towards science? But actually, by them honing their artistic abilities, they're actually gaining a unique perspective, one that they could put into their scientific work, making it more stand out and eventually earning them Nobel Prizes. Other successful people have also said basically the same thing. Take Steve Jobs, for example, on how he said that he wouldn't be able to design the very first Macintosh computers if it weren't for a calligraphy class that he took in school. Or Claude Shannon, the second example, who wouldn't be able to invent the Boolean system of ones and zeros in computer programming if it weren't for a philosophy class that he also took in university. You see, when a person is exposed to a wide range of seemingly unrelated knowledge, they gain the ability to create new, unthought of solutions when previous ones no longer work out. Maybe job-wise, we can see that people who specialize early on, maybe by the time they graduate from university, they tend to have higher earnings at first. But if we look closer, the people who chose to specialize later, or people who are already in their careers but chose to have an open mind to learn more things outside of their career field, they tend to have more sustainable careers. Why? Because they love what they do. They're free from the societal pressures to specialize, but also they have the range of skills necessary to build or expand upon their careers. So, the big question, how does this link back to the fact that people are reading less and less? Well, through reading, you're constantly exposed to new, unthought of, or unfamiliar concepts. We are constantly going against the grain in society here, which we all know is hyperspecialization. And doing that in itself entails a lot of courage, right? When you choose to learn outside of your subject, your path to learning doesn't look like a straight road like this. Not at all. Instead, it looks messy and all over the place, just like that. Right? When you choose to learn out of your comfort zone, you will feel like you're left behind. You will hear people say that what you're doing is not worth it or just a waste of time. And you will definitely second guess yourself a lot. And that is why a lot of people fail at this process. They let their fears get the best of them. But lastly, no, I'm not saying that we should oppose specialization. Because as we all know, it has created so much growth and so much opportunity unlike any other. And we all should be grateful for that. But the system is not perfect. It has created this fear where we're more reluctant to learn outside of our jobs, to learn for fun. Why? Because we're scared. The societal pressures around us are just too big, and we must conform. Right? And that is detrimental. We are indirectly being taught to erect these mental barriers in our minds, distancing ourselves to the vast amount of knowledge that is outside of our narrow worlds. The system that was once created to offer limitless opportunities has instead backfired and limited us. So, what should we do? We shouldn't have to fall for this trap. Acknowledging that the problem exists is a good first step, but we shouldn't end there. We should then ask ourselves, what can I do to break out of these barriers? I encourage all of you to start reading, not just any book, but books outside of your comfort zone. But even that is not enough. We should then think to ourselves. We should then think that the problem is not just us, but on a societal level. Collectively, we should start treating curiosity not as a pest, but as something to be embraced, as a competitive advantage, something to accept with open arms. So, are you ready to accept the challenge? Because daring to accept the challenge is daring to live a curiously fulfilled life. Thank you.